Zack Kass, thanks so much for joining me. It's great to see you.
Great to be here, John. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you joining us as the headlining keynote at the upcoming DISTRIBUTECH International in Orlando on February 27th as part of our The Art of What's Possible theme. And before we dive into all things AI and what this evolution means for electric utilities, can you start off by sharing just a bit about your background and your time at OpenAI and how you approach all of this?
Sure. Yeah, I was lucky enough to start my career in applied machine learning. So I worked at a company out of college called Crowdflower, which became Figure 8 and sold to Appen. It was early data labeling. This is sort of pre-scale AI data labeling. The founders were Stanford researchers who built PowerSet, which was sold to Microsoft and became Bing. And they were studying how you can build better search algorithms using humans to label the actual results. That was early data labeling. We, of course, now know about data labeling at massive scale. Tesla's made it really famous in terms of how they build their models. That was 2010. Fast forward 6 years, I joined a company called Lilt, which was building neural nets for the purposes of translation. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was sort of hockey sticking my career. Those were also Stanford researchers who studied under Chris Manning, who were very early neural nets guys and sort of proving that we could actually improve at a faster rate using neural nets than statistical ML. That led me to OpenAI, where I had the honor and privilege of building their go-to-market team, sales, partnerships, customer success primarily, and watching the business grow from a few $1 million in revenue to quite a bit more. That's basically what led me here, which is I also at my time at OpenAI observed that the world is moving much faster scientifically than it is socially, and technological progress and scientific invention does not necessarily beget societal progress. We need to win the public perception battle that, quite honestly, things like nuclear lost. And so a lot of what I do today is try to inspire the world to imagine a future that is bright, powered by AI, abundant, promising, and ultimately serve as a counter narrative to the prevailing sentiment that somehow everything has to be dystopian or post-apocalyptic.
And I think the electric utility industry may be a perfect example of exactly what you're talking about, in that, for the better part of 100 years, not much changed. Once we achieved this great feat of establishing a national and regional grids, there's a reluctance to take on risk. You didn't have to change much because the resources were the same. We were relying on a centralized power system, where now everything is changing rapidly. And we have millions of distributed assets in the field that utilities are now having to grapple with how to manage and how to plan for, how to forecast. And so even though AI, it seems in this space, is approached in both equal parts excitement and apprehension, there seems to be this new willingness to take on risk and to take on change that didn't exist even maybe 5-10 years ago. So I'm interested in what makes you most excited about engaging with this audience and being in front of this group that is so pivotal to not only the energy transition, but it's a fundamental piece of our day-to-day life and the future of AI.
Yeah. Well, I'll start by saying that I think that often I speak at a lot of places where people are like, why would you speak there? And my retort is like, why wouldn't you? Everyone in the world, the AI is not, this is not it is going to impact the world indiscriminately. And the point here isn't that we should only talk to technologists or only talk to, banks about AI. The point is that the world should be communicated with about this technology. Everyone should have an equal opportunity to understand what it is, how it's built, where it's going, how it's going to impact us. So I start by saying that energy is uniquely important to AI because it's one of the few sources of inputs that is going to be required to build what we call AGI, artificial general intelligence. An energy deficit is a real risk in an AI future. Energy and compute are the two primary things that we will need the most of, assuming we have enough data, and which we think we do. So talking to the energy community, there's a bit of hey, by the way, this is what we need from you. So it's not just about here's how AI is going to improve how we move energy on and off the grid. Here's how AI is going to improve safety in the field. Here's how AI is going to improve. I mean, energy companies are some of the biggest providers of customer service teams, right? Like all these things are really critical. What is most critical actually is that the energy companies appreciate how important they are to the folks building these and running what we call inferencing these models. And there's going to be, there's going to be a very dynamic relationship in the future between energy and AI. AI is going to serve energy from a scientific standpoint, from an operational standpoint, and energy is going to serve AI because we are going to need a whole lot more of it to power what I think is going to become sort of a utility grid of AI.
And to that point, OpenAI founder and CEO Sam Altman, who you know well, said, I think yesterday or the day before at Davos, that we need an energy breakthrough just to keep up with, supplying those inputs for computing power. And I think that was heard by this industry. And, he's made investments alongside, Microsoft and Bill Gates with Fusion. So it'll be really interesting to see how that all plays out. You referred to getting out in front of these issues in a way that nuclear wasn't able to shape the conversation and shape the approach. How would you recommend this audience, utilities, the energy industry, frames their approach to AI and what it really means to their, day-to-day operations? Because I think all of this kind of boils back down to that. What does it mean for me, and why should I be paying attention?
Yeah. Well, I think, ultimately, energy providers understand the game of margins basically as well as anyone in the world, right? Fundamentally, it's a utility. Utilities are sort of measured by not, I don't get higher quality energy necessarily. I prefer cleaner energy, of course, but on the whole, the power that comes through my outlets doesn't really change. PG&E happens to be the utility provider, so that's fine. But I think in a world where we are trying to figure out how to serve more energy at lower cost, AI stands to be the most important deflationary event, or the advent of AI stands to be the most important deflationary event in human history, probably. And the utilities stand to be some of the best net beneficiaries of that. One, there's going to be a whole lot more requirement for energy. So the utility providers are going to be expected to serve a lot more energy. Two, the burgeoning costs that it comes from running and scaling energy companies should come down, right? The cost to, again, move energy onto the grid, store energy on the grid, distribute energy, manage the operations, manage the field, manage the customers, all of those costs should come down at pretty incredible scale. That's why energy companies should pay attention. To Sam's point and to sort of the global concern, we probably need fusion, or we need an energy, we need a solar field the size of Arizona. We need a major energy breakthrough, because there's nothing currently on the horizon to store and distribute the energy that's actually required to train the next wave of models and certainly run inference on the next wave of models.
Yeah, and I think the data bears out what you're saying too. In PJM, the Mid-Atlantic grid operator region, Dominion Energy, in the tip of the Southeast, there is onboarding data center after data center, and this grid operator is now tripling its load forecast for, I think, the second consecutive year. So there's that one piece of business is going to be good because people need electrons to make all of this work. So you get to be that provider and benefit from this technology to improve how you manage the grid, how you serve customers, how you manage just a business like all of us are trying to do. So I think that's a really good point here. So the last few years, last like 18 months has felt like just an explosion of AI tools, in large part because of what OpenAI did with ChatGPT and all the tools that have been built on top of that. And you are somewhat to blame for the reason of that explosion. What should we expect in these coming years? Like what does the next 2 to 3 years look like? Is it going to be, step change after step change like it's felt like recently?
Yeah, from a scientific standpoint, probably. There's no reason to believe that the science is slowing, and there's some reason to believe that it's actually accelerating. There's probably, again, there's a compute deficit that could slow things down. There is a energy deficit, and then there's a policy question looming. We policied nuclear out of existence in the United States largely. We could do that here, I think. Notwithstanding that, I think we will continue. You should expect the industry to continue to move at a pretty incredible pace relative to what we expect, from historically. The real question is, how will it change our lives? And I think the way to think about this is, this is how I try to frame it for friends and family and people that I speak to. You can think about the phases of AI in the following ways. Phase one, the phase we're currently in, is what I consider the enhanced application phase. So when I want to use AI, or when I say, John, use AI, what you think about is, do I open my phone and open ChatGPT and do ChatGPT and then close the app, and then take the text and put it somewhere, or whatever. And that's, there are various permutations of using AI, but they mostly involve opening an app that is enhanced by AI, using the app and closing the app, and then opening another app. And that's fine because it comports to the world that we live in, right? We're comfortable with that. We don't have to change our hardware. We don't have to change our software. It generally works. I think it's grossly inefficient relative to what AI is actually capable of. And what we know is that there are LLM-powered agents that are very capable of actually executing commands. That is the near-term future that is really going to move AI into the applied zeitgeist, where instead of someone saying, I use ChatGPT today, most people are going to give their phone commands like, I need to fly to New York next week, or I need to go visit grandma. And a bunch of things are going to happen that set up a trip, notify family, arrange a dog walker, book a hotel, and that's all going to happen in the background. That's when people are really going to start realizing the benefits of AI and how much time it's saving them, right? I need my taxes done, right? Whatever. And all the things happen in H&R Block or wherever they do their taxes. That also comports to the world we live in because the applications can still exist in our laptop and our phone. We're just not going to use them, I think, like directly. The LLMs are going to use them, or the LLM agents are going to use them. And that's where we'll probably live for a while. And I think we're going to get really good at living in this agent-powered world where a John's agent shows up at a meeting and does stuff, maybe an HOA. Maybe instead of people meeting at HOAs, they just send their LLM agents to an HOA. They discuss and come back with outcomes. Where it gets really interesting, John, and the future that's harder to imagine is one where we move into an AI-powered operating system. And that's probably one where our hardware has to change. And I sort of describe this future, and I don't know what it looks like, and I don't know when it comes, maybe 10 years, maybe fewer. But almost certainly you and I will not use an iPhone 22, maybe 23. Like the iPhone, the age of these machines that we are using is coming to an end. They don't make sense in a world that is AI powered. We don't need keys like this. We need a natural language interface. And that I think is going to be the brave new world that really, really hockey sticks our efficiency and leads to remarkable deflation.
So let's round it out here. What is one lasting point that you're going to attempt to leave with this audience, and not to give away, your headlining speech, because that's what we want, to bring people in, but even a question you want them to answer themselves as they listen to your comments and kind of take those as action items into that day-to-day world? Yeah,
I appreciate you asking this. Look, I am there's a quadrant of techno-optimism and techno-pessimism. And in the upper, on one scale, it is you think that AI is going to be good. And on the other scale is you think AGI is going to come quickly. And I'm basically the top right. I live believing that it will come fast and it will be very good. I want to serve as a counter narrative to the prevailing sentiments that we are approaching a dystopian future. Not because I need people to believe everything I have to say, but because I really want people to go home and have conversations with their family and friends about a future that could be abundant and bright. These are conversations that have to happen around dinner tables all over the world in order for us to actually realize this future. If we cannot imagine something, it will be very hard for us to build it. And so my mission, my charter in all of this is go build better companies, go build better energy solutions. We're going to need it. And also go home and imagine a future that is really beautiful. And that you are excited to live in, that you're really glad your children live in, that you're really glad your grandchildren live in, and that's really my lasting hope in all this.
Well, Zack Kass, thanks so much for joining me. We look forward to seeing you in Orlando at DISTRIBUTECH International on February 27th.
Thanks so much, John. Looking forward to it.